Welcome. Okay, we've got people in here now. So I thought I'd go live today, post release day of the book yesterday, which was like an incredible day. To be honest with you, I was like pretty emotionally overwhelmed after everything that had gone on over the course of the week. So we went to, glad you got it. We went to Cambridge, London and Edinburgh last week, and there's nearly a couple of hundred people at every one of them, and it was amazing. Just amazing. And look, I'm going to do a Q&A in a minute, so if you have any questions, the best place to put them is in the chat. Look, I love just reading that people are reading the book already and loving it already. It's amazing. But yeah, any questions, put them in the Q&A. I'm going to run my gums for a little bit, and then we'll do a bit of a Q&A as well, because it's always nice to do that, right? But yeah, so some of you are getting the book delivered today. Some of you are talking about already reading the book, which is amazing. The thing that I wanted to say to make sure that you all know is that if you get it ordered before Sunday, then just put your order number on my website. When you go to my website, you'll see that there's a link in my bio. Yeah, you can go there and then you can register for the mini retreat on Sunday. It's going to be Sunday morning, so it's 3 hours long. It's 9:30 till 12:30. We've got Jess and Nick from the 3E Space who help run my online community and are affiliate coaches for Inner You. They're going to do like a grounding exercise. Then I'll do a talk, similar talk to the one that I've been doing on the tour. And then Madeline's going to come in and do an IFS parts meditation, which will be amazing. Trust me, it's amazing. And part of the book, or Our Toxic Parents, I'll answer that in a minute. And part of the book, in one of the chapters, you look at all of the parts of yourself. So that'll be really relatable. And then we're going to finish with a massive breath work where you're going to need to lay down, you're going to need to get a pillow to scream in if you need one. And it's going to be amazing. It'll be a celebration as well of the release of the book. And so, yeah, all copies bought before Sunday as well help me with the first week of sales. So it's like the best way that you can help me with the book. It's been nice this morning. I'm back in the office just briefly today. And then I set off to Dublin on Monday. We go to Dublin, Brighton and Bristol next week, which I'm really excited about. But I've been writing the notes in a couple of books for the competition winners from the previous couple of weeks. And I'll be sending them out today. So if you are one of the competition winners, you'll be getting this sent with a note inside it. And I look forward to doing that. So there's still tickets, by the way. If you're in Dublin or near Dublin, Brighton or Bristol, there are still a few spaces, couple of spaces left at each one of those places. So it would be amazing if you want to come along. The events so far have just been incredible. I feel very fortunate to be doing them. So look, let's get into the questions. Let's do a bit of a Q&A. I'm not going to stay here for too long. We may be adding Manchester. I didn't organise the places that we go to, so we may be adding them yesterday, adding more dates. But at the moment, Manchester's not on there yet. Jenna McKay, thank you, man. I'm so glad that you've got it and enjoying it. The one thing I would say is to everybody that gets the book is make sure you do the breath works at the end, yeah? Because it's such a huge part of the work, man. It's such a huge part of the work. Okay, Q&A. Somebody asked, what is a toxic parent? Which is like quite a broad question. I think, look, what I would say is that everybody sits somewhere on the scale of having our own kind of toxic traits. But for me, the reason that I use the term toxic when I say toxic parent is because you start saying narcissistic and stuff like that, and then people will say that that's like a diagnosis, and you shouldn't be talking about diagnosis. And then in most cases, we're talking about somebody who is emotionally coercive and abusive. But a lot of people don't recognize that that's what their parent are at the beginning. So toxic is just a broader term to in. Yeah, it's really normal to feel panicky about doing the breath work. And I sort of explain all of that in the videos that you'll see for doing it. And I gently ease you into the practice for the first 3 chapters. So it's really common, yeah, for people to feel panicky. There's a sense as well, subconsciously at least, that you know that it's going to bring emotion about, right? So my toxic parents are trying to come back in my life but refuse to apologise for their actions. What would you do? Let them in because of their grandchildren? I wouldn't let them in because of their grandchildren, right? But that doesn't mean that I would say to you that you shouldn't let them in. They probably won't apologize, right? So you need to see your parents for exactly what they are and make a decision based on that. You won't change them. You won't make yourself lovable. You won't make them see from your perspective. So if you spend your life just desperately trying to do that, then you're going to get lost. I don't think if you feel like your parents have been abusive that you need to allow them in for the sake of the grandchildren. We wouldn't say that in any other instance, right? Well, it sometimes happens in relationships as well, but like it's ridiculous to suggest that. So if they're abusive, and you've got to see them for what they are. Where do they sit on the scale? How close to the fire can you sit without getting burnt, right? If they're really toxic and abusive, you need to see them for exactly what they are, know you won't change them, and then make your decision based on that. So I can't give you a like, yes, you should or no, you shouldn't. But what I would say is that like just having kids isn't a reason to do so. You have to see them for what they are. And you can't expect them, they won't apologize. If they're the type of person that I'm on about particularly, they'll never see it from your side. Can generational trauma impact on toxic parents? Look, I think a lot of toxic parents are toxic because of their own generational trauma, yes, but that doesn't, that doesn't justify who and what they are. And that's why I think it's so important in the end to do the work on yourself so that it doesn't travel down through you. Like, that's really important, I believe. I have way too much to say about your work. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. It's resonated so deeply for my husband, and I'm so relieved he found your voice. Oh, that's amazing. I'm so pleased too. Yeah, someone says here they will use your grandchildren. They will, man. And I've got, you'll find loads of content from me talking about that as well. My mother is dying right now and all her abuse is coming to a head. I'm being very tender and loving towards her, but it's been the hardest thing ever. Well, good for you, man. Like, do what's right for you in that moment. It's a really difficult situation. My husband has toxic parents. His dad just died and his mother told him by solicitor letter he's devastated. My child is also devastated. I'm ordering your book to see if it helps. Yeah, I'd love for you to where are you based? Tell me where you're based, please, Nick. Oh, good for you, going no contact. Carla, glad you got it. The relationship we have with ourselves sets the tone for the relationships in our lives. I think it does. I think it sets the tone for your adult relationships in your life, but it's important to remember that when you're a child, it's your parents that give you the relationship with yourself. You develop a sense of self under the loving gaze of a loving parent, and if that parent is toxic and abusive, then it's likely that you never gained and developed a proper, true and loving relationship with yourself because they didn't show you that. They didn't mirror love back at you, so how could you? So I think it's important that you need to understand, this is why the book's called It's Them Not You, that when you reach your adulthood and you've got all this stuff going on, it wasn't yours to carry. Why do they never take accountability, responsibility for what they have done and never apologise? In most cases, because they never self-reflect. They never reflect and they'll never take responsibility. And I think it's important to know that on a deep level. Newcastle. Okay. DM me, Nick, just to make sure, and I'll send you a copy. What do you do with toxic siblings? Again, you have to, look, toxic siblings is the same, man. Like, you need to see people exactly as they are. You need to see people exactly as they are and do what you need to do. This is the thing. It's not about me saying that you should cut these people out. I'm not saying you should cut your siblings out. What I'm saying is you have to let go of the idea that you'll ever be able to change them. You cannot live your whole life desperately trying to be and do something in the hope that it will change somebody to be what you need and want them to be. They'll be what they are. And you can't have the power to change. So see them what they are clearly and then make a decision on what you want to do. This like overly loving, overly spiritual stuff that you see online, you have to be careful of it. I say this all of the time, right? I think you should be judgmental. I think you should see people for what they are. You should see exactly who you see, notice how you feel in your body, and then make a decision on what you want to do based on that. And whether they get to be in your life is based on that. Like, we're not supposed to be loved and liked by everybody, and it's not our fault to try and change everybody. So So listen, your body might tell you one thing and that might be a you thing, but who gives a fuck whether it's a you or them thing? Life's too short. There's plenty of people out there that will be you and that will make you feel safe instantly when you meet them. So why are we abandoning ourselves trying to get people to love and like us? It's more complex when it's family. It's more complex when it's siblings. It's definitely more complex when it's parents. However, we still have to see people in the truth of what they are. Yeah? Because we're adults now. We're not defenseless children. We're adults. I'm miles behind on the chat here. Do you have anything on abusive and narcissistic brothers, siblings? Oh, yeah, I've just done that. So hopefully what I've just said will help with that. Wish inner child work, boundaries and self-love, self-care was taught at all ages. Here's what I think about that. Because I understand what you're saying. But boundaries and self-love are installed in us by a healthy, loving, nurturing adult. So I actually think what we need schools full of emotionally available, loving, nurturing adults for children that might not have that at home. We need teachers that are not bound and stressed by academic pressures. And our whole society should be built around looking after, protecting, nurturing and loving young children. And any demographic of people should be judged by that. And in Western culture, in our Western arrogance of thinking that we're the fucking be-all and end-all of the world, we're an absolute disgrace. And that's why we have what we call, I believe, what we're calling a mental health crisis, is because nobody gives a shit about the kids. That's what I think. And then we individualize it and people profit from the resulting distress of the adults who grew up in an environment where they weren't adequately supported as children. You know, because what we have is a social issue. We don't have a mental health problem. We have a social problem where children are not adequately supported for the most important part of our whole life, which is the first 9 years. And currently, the same people that should be funding that social issue sit at the same table as the people that profit from the resulting distress of those people. Yeah? And they're all fucking canoodling together, and what you've got is a toxic and abusive system. And what happens in a toxic or abusive system? Those in power that are abusing the power and abusing the people convince and gaslight and make the people think that they're the problem. That's what I think is going on in Western society, by the way. Seeing you next week in Brighton, I had to come to terms with expecting the smear campaign and that I will never know what the rest of my family believed at all. So hard, and I hear you, man. Saw you talking in Edinburgh and the breathwork was amazing, so thank you. Question, why do you think that it's usually one person in the family that ends up being the one to say enough? Because I think that you're born, the person that comes out and says that they're enough, that this is enough, that we're not doing this anymore, is the one that's born with the courage and has the personality traits to step out of the abuse and say this ain't okay anymore. And I think there's other dynamics at play. We all take on different roles, and if you have a look at the book, I explain all of those roles. How do I work through my own trauma and show up for him the way I always should have? I've struggled 22 years to be there emotionally for my son, to the trauma I've had. Listen, this is what I say really quickly, and I love the question. I think you should always, I think the best thing that anybody can do for their children is to work on themselves so that they can be the best version of themselves. But the very fact that you asked the question, if you grew up with toxic and abusive parents of any kind, who were never there for you and never looked out for you, who never did what they're supposed to do as a parent, if you are reflecting on a fucking daily basis, am I turning into my parent? How do I be better? How do I be there for my child? Know that you're already doing it. Parenting is fucking hard, man. Like, it's the hardest thing that anyone will ever do. And we get it wrong. You're learning on the job all of the time. As long as you're there, you're trying your best, you're trying to be present for them, you're trying to see them, you're trying to love them, you're trying to be consistent, you're going to fuck up on a daily basis, and you're going to keep showing up. And you're going to lay in bed at night and think, how do I be a better parent? I wish I wasn't like this. And you know what? That's being a parent. That's the game. And you ain't the same as your toxic parent because you're doing all of that. And I think that's really important. Be willing to work on yourself and you'll do enough. We'll all mess our kids up a bit. They'll all have to do a bit of work. But as long as you're right there for them, when they're ready to do the work and they come to you, you'll be ready because you'd have worked on yourself. You'd be willing to heal it. When my kids, one of mine's nearly an adult now, so is my second one's nearly an adult. When they get to a certain age and they come to me and they say, I need to talk about some stuff. I need to talk about where you let me down. I want, as a dad, to be able to swallow, know that it's going to be hard for me to hear, and sit and validate that. And sit and say, I know I let you down sometimes. And that's why we need to talk about this properly. Can you send me the book link as well? I'm in the car listening. It'll be difficult for me to remember. Just DM me and I'll send you the book link, yeah. I have severed contact, but I'm concerned my 10-year-old missed out on grandparents. How do I explain to her? Look, I think you tell your 10-year-old the truth. And you remember, and you fucking remember this clearly, that they're not missing out on a grandparent because of you, because of what you did. They're missing out on a grandparent because of what their grandparent did. What you've done is to protect them. How do you cope with the loneliness of what happened when it feels like the world thinks you were too sensitive? Listen, I hope that we can raise awareness for sensitivity and the realization of that. Find community. Like, there's a big community on my comments and in a lot of my posts and stuff like that. We've got an online community away from here. You might want to go and try that. But yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. But listen, what I would say is that loneliness is often driven by how much of myself I'm able to share with people. So I need to find communities where I feel like I can share with my all of myself with them. I need to find at least one person where I feel like I can air everything that's going on in my inside of me, and I'll still be loved and I'll still be respected and still be in a relationship with them. All right. So loneliness is not always driven by how many people we have around us. It's how seen we feel by the people that are. So you've got to find people that see you. Love that you are speaking about this, using this platform to help others is amazing. What we didn't have during our childhood and even our adult years. Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Have you got any podcast appearances coming up to promote the book? There are a few. I'm not going to try and name them. I'm not playing my cards close to my chest. I just don't remember what ones. But yeah, there's some coming up. Do scapegoats ever get heard by the parents and enabling siblings? Depends how toxic the parents and enabling siblings are. If you're talking high-end toxic parents, then no, they'll never hear the scapegoat. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, they won't. And listen, maybe they will. Maybe some do, but you can't live your life hoping that they do. Or you can hope. You can never lose sight of hope. Maybe that's how. Maybe you can do that, but you can't let that affect your actions. You can't let that affect how you live. How do I make my 15-year-old twin nieces aware of their mother's toxicity, who is the worst version of our mother I cut off from a couple of years ago? Really good question. Here's what you do for other family members, nieces, nephews, if you feel like their parent is toxic. You show them, you model what it is to be a healthy, loving, consistent person. You don't have to talk down about their parent. If you ever do have conversations where they say this happened, you don't have to talk down. You can say, that doesn't feel right to me. Here's what feels right to me. All right. But you show loving, consistent, and you'll be probably made out to be the crazy, weird aunt by their toxic parent. But one day when they're willing to work on themselves, they'll come back. They'll start to realize that the crazy, weird auntie that I was told about actually knew their shit. And I know that's a bit of a long game, but that is the game. What to do when I love my mother for the woman she is, but hate her as a daughter? Whoa, deep question. What do I do when I love my mother for the woman she is, but hate her as a daughter? Try and build a relationship with her around that. That's the answer I can give you. Now, now I would get you to explore that, what it is you love about her, and what it is that you don't love about her. There's a chapter in the book called Healing My Relationships, and like it never more that does it speak to that question than that question there. So check out chapter 8. I mean, if you've got the book, I think it's chapter 8. It's called Healing My Relationships. Yeah, look, teachers are screaming at the kids in my daughter's school. It's crazy. It's because they're under so much academic pressure. Our love from India. Thank you. Yeah, this will go. Don't worry. I'll post this live. It'll go on my grid. What else we got? Yeah, that's common, the smear campaign. Oh, I'm so far behind on the chat. Let me just come down to the... I'll work my way back up again a little bit. At what age is it appropriate to share my son why we don't see his grandparents? I think straight away. In age-appropriate language. Like, I think kids need to know the truth. Some people aren't very nice. Some people aren't very nice. And sometimes those not very nice people are people within our family. And I think it's really important that we all understand that, and that you trust your body and you trust your judgment. And when you meet somebody, and if they don't make you feel very good, and if there's something that happens inside of your body and you don't feel very good around them, you trust your body. That's what I want to tell my kids. You trust your body. Don't stick around to find out. Trust your body. In the UK at least, and I think probably in Western culture, we create little people pleasers. Like, oh, don't be horrible. Like, find a way to love them, you know. See the good in everybody. Try and see the good in everybody, yeah? Make sure you see the fucking bad in them as well. Make sure you see the bad in them as well. Don't avoid that, because it'll get you hurt. So I think age-appropriate, truthful language is important. Oh, thank you. My mum is a monster, but my sister still love her. I can't do it anymore. You have to do what's right for you, man. I don't want to make him feel bad for me if I explain my mummy wasn't very kind to me. It won't make him feel bad for you. Like, I'm sure he loves you, and it will feel difficult for them to hear. But difficult things happen, and so we have to tell the truth. Like, explore that, all right? I want you to explore that for me. I don't want him to make him feel bad for me. I hope you can allow people to feel appropriately for you when you have struggles, you know? Yeah, I hope that answers the question. Let's see if there's any more here. If you've asked a question and I've missed it, the best thing to do is put it in the Q&A, because then I can pick it up. What do I do when they're being enabled by the court to continue their abuse? It's so hard, man. It's so hard because coercive and emotional abuse is like designed and made to fall under the radar, isn't it? I've been wanting to cut off my parents for years now, but I know it will come with the feelings of guilt, since that's what they've always done, and I'm afraid I won't see my nephew. How do I deal with it? Listen, you have to take it day by day, and I think that some people make a definite cutting off point, and like, you know, this is a cut off and that's what's happening. Sometimes it could just be like a day-to-day thing, you know, like today I'm not going to see them. Like, there's no right or wrong here, right? And when you've been the victim of toxicity and abuse, like, let go of like your solution being like right and clear. I know you've got a lot of like spiritual fucking gods online that are like, here's how you do it and here's what it should look like, and make sure you've done enough healing so that you can exit abuse in a like loving and kind, love and light and forgiving and way. Like, be careful of that shit, man. Like, you're the victim of abuse. It's messy. So like, I would say navigate it the best you can. But don't let like perfectionism get in the way of how you try and exit an abusive relationship. Like, if you need to fucking ghost somebody who's abusing you, then you ghost them. Yeah, and then if you want to see your nephew, and you haven't said I'm cutting you off, and then you just go and see them and you almost appease and use them so that you can see your nephew, then like, you're the victim here at the end of the day. That is what I think. I hope you're not too exhausted. No, I'm good. I had a nice rest last night, and then I got a few bits to get done today, and then I've got a nice weekend. Well, we've got the retreat on Sunday, and then I'm off Dublin on Monday. So yeah, maybe I'm shattered. Yeah, my 4 kids could see what was happening with my mum. Kids are not daft. They can see what's going on. It's so true. And this is why truth's important to kids, because they're seeing it. They're seeing it, they're experiencing it, and they're picking up on it. And unless you tell them the truth, they'll come up with another story, or someone else will come in and give them a false truth. Dealing with parents that cut you off, now realising the toxic behaviours due to them. I mean, look, if any parent that's cut you off is, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. Right, I'm going to do one more. Oh, I see. Dealing with toxic parents cut you off, now realising toxic behaviour due to them not respecting my boundaries around my 2-year-old daughter. Look, what's the saying? If you lay boundaries, and the people that get upset when you lay boundaries are the very reason that you've laid them. So if they've cut you out because you've laid some clear boundaries around your 2-year-old daughter, that's on them, not you. Perfectionism is the key word. I'm trying to find the perfect moment where it will hurt least for everybody. Put yourself, Jessica, time to put yourself first. All right? Forget everybody else. You're the victim here. Time to put yourself first. You're an adult now. You're not a defenseless child. Put yourself first. Do what's right for you, your well-being and your right to happiness and freedom. And do what's right for you. Thank you, Carly. Thank you for Tuesday night. It was a massive eye-opener for me, and I already feel like a different person. Oh, amazing. You come to the event and feel like a different person. Amazing. Right, one more. Is parent cutting child out silent treatment? Depends. I can't really answer the question because there's not enough context. Sorry. Come to Australia. Yeah, it'll happen. All right. I think we're going to close it down here now. If you haven't yet got a book, remember, let me just remind you. Look how proud I am when I hold it. That you can get it now. And if you get it now, we're going to do an online retreat. So on Sunday, part of the, yes, USA is going to happen. The book's coming out in the USA. I promise you that. That is all sorted. I'm not sort of like gatekeeping the date that it's going to come out. I don't know it yet, and I'm waiting to hear it. I have a friend that is just starting her journey in learning how to love herself. How should she start with your materials? Yeah, order my book. Order the book and come to the retreat. The retreat on Sunday, just lastly, quick before I sign off here, we're going to have a grounding exercise from Nick and Jess, who are incredible. I'm going to do like a 45-minute talk. We'll do a Q&A as well for the talk. We're going to give away some books and stuff as well. Yes, you can come to the retreat. All I want you to do is put your email in and then put the number from the barcode in the order number, okay? And your email, because your email will be there, and your email will line up with what you signed up to the thingy with, and you'll be able to come. Yes, it's online, and we finish with a massive breathwork. So all you got to do is pre-order the book. Well, not pre-order it, you order it now, before Sunday, and then you can sign up. Any issues on that front, drop me a DM and I'll hook you up. Otherwise, thank you, big love, everybody. See you on the next one.